I'm here in Medjugorje and I'm with, what's your name?
My name is Dean.
Dean, where are you from?
I'm from Kildare in Ireland.
And you said it's the 24 hours, the first 20 hours in Medjugorje now.
Yes, so we arrived in Medjugorje around this time yesterday. So no, I'm still in my 24 hours of Medjugorje.
Yeah. And why did you come here? When did you hear first time about Medjugorje and what do you think and why did you come here?
So I suppose the first time I heard about Medjugorje it wasn't even through my own kind of whatever. It was a good friend on the Catholic Society in university back home.
Mm.
And they actually gave up the offer for, hey, how do we feel about a bunch of us going down to Medjugorje and maybe organizing something like that, see if we can organize some fundraising and get that going. And I'd never heard of it up until this point. And I began talking with the people, kind of trying to figure out what it was. And the way they described this was so magical that I made a vow to myself to not look up anything and to not look at any pictures. So everything that I'm experiencing in Medjugorje is firsthand with my own eyes and with my own feelings. And I would personally recommend that route of going about it. If this is your first time hearing about Medjugorje, stop now. Don't look more into it. Experience it yourself with just your own eyes, your own ears first.
And you said like 24 hours you're here and so much things happened. What happened?
Yes, even I suppose the first kind of hit was even the bus ride here. And there was a very large group rosary. I think it might have been about between 60 of us, we'll call it 60 or 70 of us on the bus.
Mm.
And it was a group rosary. And of course, we've all prayed rosary and group rosaries, but
Young people only or mixed?
oh no, a mix and match of ages,
Yeah.
big mix and match.
Mhm.
And I suppose about, we'll call it decade 3 into the rosary, I was praying the rosary with a deep intention. And I guess the best way I can describe it is physically I felt my soul kind of almost lighting up or on fire. That is the best way I can describe it.
The effect of the rosary prayer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'd never experienced that before, whether it be with group rosaries or just myself. I'd never gotten it that intense, that fire. And it was only then I actually understood the gravity of what I'm getting into with Medjugorje and the gravity and true significance of Medjugorje and how, okay, yeah, essentially what I'm getting myself into. And that only hit me then because of the fact I didn't look into it.
Mhm.
So no, that between that fire and truly understanding what I'm getting myself into, that was the first big oomph, and I hadn't even arrived in the country yet.
Wow, amazing. And for you, it wasn't like if you tell young people about the rosary, they go like, oh my God, not interested. Why is the rosary so special? Were you introduced to the rosary? You said you're a convert?
And yeah, so I'm a very large advocate of the rosary, a very, very large one. And I suppose even just in my own regards, like the rosary, in the way I always kind of explore it is whenever, let's say, I might be getting lazy and I go, oh, I'm too tired to do it today. I'll just do a regular prayer instead. Why would I do a regular prayer when I could pray the rosary, which is infinitely more powerful? The prayers that I might be praying with intention through the rosary, through the intercession prayer of Our Lady, would be infinitely more powerful. Never mind if it's just myself. If it's a group one, then you have however many people with that rosary. So let's say that bus ride that I mentioned earlier, that was about 50, 60, 70 of us. That's 50, 60, 70 rosaries. I can't even comprehend the sheer power of that prayer. But I suppose I can because I felt it. I physically felt it in my soul. So if like you do feel, given the right opportunities, you do feel the power of the rosary.
Yeah. Same with me, Same experience that it lightens you up. You get out of the darkness. When you fell in sin or something, you pray the rosary. You can't go to a confession yet. Try out the rosary. It will lift you out of the darkness.
I agree.
And you said you were an atheist?
Yes, previously I was.
And why did you become Catholic?
So I suppose I've been Catholic for, we'll call it 2 years. I can't remember an exact, but that's in and around.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent most of my life atheist. I have to say, I suppose a large factor in that was my family.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my family were atheists and kind of looked down on the faith. So as a child growing up, all you hear about the faith is, it's not worth pursuing. And so I just kind of blindly accepted that 'cause they're my family. Why would they lie to me? And I suppose in the depths of, and then later on in the years, in the depths of my mind and turmoil, I've turned to everything. I'm still in these depths and turmoil of my mind, and I go, okay, there's this little book called the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
Let's see what it's about. Let's just see. It was truly, I would almost call it a desperate attempt to get out of that despair that I found myself in. And everything, at first I was kind of, skeptical. It's all I heard my life about faith was, this and that you might have heard yourself, but everything just clicked. It was like two little Lego pieces just fitting in perfectly. Everything just made sense. And I know that mightn't be the most exciting comfort story, but no.
When you read the Bible, everything fell into place, basically.
Yeah, like it made sense on why we are what we are, why the world is what it is, why things are the way they are. Everything just made sense. So many unanswered questions quickly became answered.
Did anybody introduce you to the Bible, or it just happened out of the blue?
No, it was my own kind of look into it.
Search.
Yeah, because like I said, it was a case of kind of a desperate attempt. Like, okay, I tried all the earthly means to fix my problems. What about non-earthly means? And well, they did it wonders now.
And have you been like baptized as a Catholic, or you changed completely? Then you took
no,
catechism?
I was baptized as a child, yes. Because back home in Ireland, whether you are Catholic or not, it still is
it's a custom.
It is still a heavy tradition to still go about it, despite the faith.
Amazing. It happened to me, called paper Catholic or cultural Catholic, but not understanding in the depth what it means. And you said like you have 24 hours here now, and you said so much things happened.
Yeah.
You said you started with praying the rosary, and now you are here. What happened here then?
I suppose a good friend brought me to a very significant place, the statue of our risen Lord.
Yeah.
And I suppose even as soon as I turned the corner and seen it, it was like this big thump in my chest of, and obviously this happened recently. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I'm still in awe, and I'm still in awe trying to understand what actually happened there with me. But yeah, I felt this thump in my chest of right now it could be just in awe of the power or in awe of the grace, or so just in awe of something related to our Lord. And there was a queue to reach the statue. And I found the closer I got to the queue, I felt more and more tears building up behind. And I don't know why. But the closer I got, it was I was fighting them. And of course, I'm coming to Medjugorje with my own struggles, and hoping to Medjugorje might do something with them. And the closer I got, it's like, I suppose the closer I got, it was kind of reassurance that it's going to be okay. Those problems are going to be solved. And I just got this deep sense of relief. And of course, then when I came upon the statue itself, I had my own words with it, and I still don't know how I managed to win against the tears. I still don't know how. One of my greatest achievements, winning against those tears, because they were fighting too.
But this is a place I cried so much, Don't worry, you can literally one time 2-3 hours in my hotel room. I have pictures of the handkerchiefs, all over the place.
Well,
it's called Grace of Tears.
I'll warn yourself and the people at home, I'm a very ugly crier, people.
Yeah, and very important, what I learned here. I think I was like you, and what I learned here is, never talk bad about yourself. That means God made a mistake when he created you, and he didn't make a mistake,
Okay.
That's when you enter Medjugorje and you get more and more into Medjugorje, you will learn the true identity, that you are endlessly loved,
Of course.
But it will come. This is deblocking everything, maybe the wounds of your parents also, who were angry with God and became atheists, And then you said, wow, this is already powerful. It happened to me. It's called the Grace of Tears. Let it go, when it's, don't be ashamed.
Okay.
And happened to me so often, And then you said you went to confession here, no?
Yes, believe it or not, we ourselves
Mhm.
ran into this glorious man here when we were just done confession.
Uh-huh.
And I suppose I was guilty myself that I hadn't been to confession in quite a long while.
Mhm.
And it's like I'd forgotten it's like I'd forgotten its graces. I'd forgotten the power it has and how uplifting it is. And I'll be honest to you, people at home, I'm still living off the buzz. So yeah, I'm still living off that buzz of confession. So I did forget. I did forget just how good it is. But no, I got such a great reminder, and especially in Medjugorje of all places, where arguably some of the best confessions happen.
Yeah. And what would you tell people now? A lot of people are scared to go to confession, to talk intimately about things, honest, truly.
Yeah.
Why not to be
Um,
scared?
yeah, I can understand if you are scared. I was terrified. I was terrified because I mean you are giving your deepest, darkest secrets to a priest. But you know, I sat down and immediately I locked eyes with the priest, and I just reminded myself, this priest is it. God is working through this priest. So any words that come out of his mouth are essentially God's words. And just that, just little reminders to myself throughout that process, every word weighed so much more, and I truly felt I could just let it all out. Because in my mind, not entirely, but I hope you can understand where I'm coming from, where it's almost like I wasn't talking with the Father. It's like I was just talking straight to God himself. Um,
Wow.
but like, forgive me, I'm still a newbie to confession. Like I said, it's been a long while since I've been, but no, and just the perfect choice of words that I truly needed to hear were orchestrated. And I don't even believe I did that good of a job getting across the points I was trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
But the priest still understood perfectly and said exactly what I was required, exactly what was needed, like a way that was so simple. How did I think of it like that before, you know? The most perfect choice of words. I can't emphasize enough how perfect the choice of words were. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Unbelievable. So beautiful what you say, and listening to your words, what I learned in Medjugorje is, we are loved unconditionally. You don't have to perform and do a perfect confession or something. God loves you as you are, you know. And that's a lot of Christians seem not to capture it. It took me like only a few months ago I captured it, and then I'm still learning to love myself, and but here in Medjugorje you can feel it, the blocking of things. You saw it at the risen Christ.
Yes.
And so far, so you went to confession, you saw the risen Christ.
Yeah.
And what are you looking forward as well in Medjugorje to?
Well, this
to
is
see?
only day 1 out of 7.
Yeah.
So the fact that I've already experienced so much if I had to go home now, I'd be happy. I'd still be happy, worthwhile. But no, I truly went into Medjugorje with a mission, with my own spiritual battles.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a worry beforehand of, well, what if I don't get what I want out of this? What if these spiritual battles aren't touched by Medjugorje? But already, day 1, they're already dealt with.
Yeah.
Already, the mission that I came here with, like it's, I'm looking for something new to come out of this with,
You will
because
see.
so quickly, so efficiently, just oh yeah, that's dealt with now. The thing that has been at you for so long, Dean, and dealt with,
Wow,
just like
amazing.
that. No, and even like I said previously on the bus ride to here, part of understanding the gravity of what I'm getting myself into was truly understanding that I'm not walking out of this place the same man was the same man that walked in.
You
Like,
could pre-feel it already.
yeah, like
Uh-huh.
I knew like I'm going to be significantly different walking out of this for the better. Arguably, I already am. Arguably.
Wow,
But
amazing. Yeah.
like I said, it's still day 1 out of 7, so there's still so much potentially to happen, and I look forward to each and every second.
And you said you have a special mission with your friend. We'll do an interview later in Ireland. What is the mission you are in?
Yeah, so myself and my good friend, we are on the Catholic Society in Maynooth University, and we're only recently part of the committee, but no, ourselves being here is because of that university committee and because of that society. That's the whole. If it weren't for that, I definitely wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have even heard of Medjugorje. So no, there is a total of 6 of us here, all of us from the university. And I'm so grateful that that through God's grace, we had the opportunity to organize that and get these 6 people here, myself included, because I can just tell, even just the buzz of people looking at them and myself, everyone almost needed this. Like everyone's being affected by this in the best way possible. And it's only through God's grace that we were able. So no, so I'm so happy, and especially my own friends and my own people back home in the university. So I like to think that that mission of bringing more people closer to God, I think we really did it with Medj today. I think we really did it, and I'm really satisfied and happy.
And what would you tell people now after the first day? Why choosing God? Why choosing the supernatural? You chose it, and you seemed you're on a path of, like Jesus says, to fullness, to joy, to restoration, to healing.
Well, I'd argue why not? You know, like I know, like I've been there too, people. Like yeah, taking the first steps into God, are you even real? And and even worldly things like what will my friends think if I believe in God? What will my family think that are against the faith? You know, like these worldly things. I would say now everyone is definitely personal with how they go about this. I wouldn't take my advice to heart per se, but the way that I went about it was just through personal experiences with God. Like just ask God, if you are out there,
Yeah,
show me.
yeah.
Show me. And ladies and gentlemen, he will. And he will do it in such a way that it can only be him. You cannot explain it any other way than him. So whether you're at a crossroads in your faith or you're dipping your toes, just cry out to God, whether it's your first time or your 100th time, show yourself to me. I need to see you to truly have faith in you. And he will. I'm telling you, I know you can't just take my word, but I'm asking you to, because I have seen this and millions upon billions of other people have seen this. So it takes you 5 seconds to make that cry, and it could change your entire life, people.
But you know, a lot of people think that God the Father is an angry old man with a white beard. He wants to judge us and put us to hell. You experienced the real living God of Israel and the nation. Can you explain how the reaction of this cry was?
Yeah.
What happened to you then?
Yeah, it's like that whole thing of, yeah, God essentially wants us in hell.
It's not true.
Yeah, no, like our God is essentially a God of love. And it took me a while, I'll admit, it took me a while to truly feel that love. But once I truly felt that love, and I could only truly describe it as this is God's love and nothing else. It can be nothing else. Everything changed. You know, I mean, you even look at the story of creation with our good old friends Adam and Eve. The way that we were meant to live as people, the very concept of bad wasn't meant to exist. The very concept of bad things didn't exist. We were supposed to live in a world with nothing but pure love for one another. God has always been about love. Why do you think we have, like, people, a common thing that people say is, well, if God exists, why do such horrible things happen? But God gave us that free will. Now we have that free will to commit good and bad things. But you cannot wholly and conditionally love without free will, because then it is not true whole and conditional love. You need that free will. But the consequence with obviously the original sin and the fall of man is that free will also gives us great capacity for evil. But just focus on the great capacity of love that God has and that you have in yourself. You might think to yourself, because I've been here before, people, you might think to yourself that you're past love, that you have nothing but hatred in you, there is no love left in you. There is, because God designed you with the sole purpose of love. And so no matter what, no matter how fallen you are, there will always be that little light in you. No matter, even if it's the smallest light possible, that tiny light of love will win out against everything you throw at us. You just need to give it the opportunity.
That's so true. And you said you prayed. Did you have a special experience, or how did God show that He's love? And
It was during a rosary.
Mm.
So it was during a rosary, and I suppose this was more so Our Lady's love that I felt. But I kind of, uh,
She's the container of the Holy Spirit.
yeah.
It's God,
Um,
love.
So, and it was a very emotionally charged rosary, and lots of intention and emotion behind this. And around, some points in the decades, I felt kind of, we'll call it, and yeah, I felt kind of pressure around my arms, and I'm thinking, whoa, 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 what's that? What's that? And then I start to feel warmth around that pressure point, and then along my torso and along my back, and then I kind of realize and put two and two together. Dean, you're feeling a hug, and I don't know about you people, I can only do the rosary with my eyes closed. I don't know how people do it with eyes open. But I had my eyes closed, and the only thing I could possibly envision that hug coming from was Our Lady. And as soon as that image popped into my head, I felt in my heart her love. And that's love, and that hug alone, the struggles that I was going through, and that emotionally charged rosary, that answered everything. That fixed everything. I cannot stress enough how perfect of a response that was. Just, it answered everything. It gave me all the solutions. It gave me the whys. Just a simple hug and her love fixed everything in that moment. And from that point onwards, I have been far more, I would almost say, aggressive with how I do the rosary. So yeah, definitely.
That's good. God said, or Jesus said in the book of Revelation, hot or cold, not lukewarm. When you said a bit aggressive, it means like you are in the game. You try, you want, and it doesn't work if you were rock bottom when you tried out the Bible. It's hot or cold. It's not in between.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
And you felt an invitation to come to Medjugorje. That happened to me. I felt like deep inside, like Our Lady was calling me. I was nearly crying. That happened in a coffee shop in Spain with a French friend talking normally, and it happened out of the blue.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say this about how they heard their call. And that's something I personally didn't feel. I didn't per se feel this calling, from Our Lady. But whether I was, perhaps it was her calling me in a way that I just didn't interpret, or didn't truly figure out, or I just wasn't paying attention, whatever it may be. And if you're not getting that calling, it's okay, because I don't believe at the very least I didn't hear that calling. But from what I've experienced and from what I know now, definitely Our Lady intended for me to be here. She intended for me to be here. Like, if she didn't want me to be here, she would make it known. She'd make it well known. So whether it was a case that I didn't receive the calling or I didn't hear it, and if you're not receiving it or don't hear it, people, it's okay. Perhaps you're just not hearing it, because I don't think I heard it. But everything that I've experienced tells me, no, I was meant to be here this day.
And what would you tell people now? You are convinced Catholic now.
Yeah.
A lot of young people in Ireland, around the world, in the West, they look at you and they think you're an astronaut. You're an extraterrestrial. What the heck is he doing? That's the last thing they would get as an idea to find the solutions of their life. Why is the Catholic faith so beautiful?
Why is it so beautiful? Oh, where do I begin? But I suppose now it varies from person to person. But for me personally, it's our respect and honor to Our Lady, and the amount of grace and love that she holds. And like that, for me, that's personally the main reason I am Catholic, the respect that we give Our Lady. And for me, she is arguably one of, if not the most beautiful things about the faith. She is the amalgamation of the perfect human that God intended for us to be, the second Eve, the original Eve, of nothing but pure love, and the very concept of bad being foreign to her, of doing bad things, of committing sin, it's a foreign concept to her. So we essentially, through Christ and arguably through Mary, we had a second chance to see these perfect beings such as Adam and Eve, the way we were meant to be, the way we were meant to live. And I don't just because that's something that I always like to think back on. You know, the original Adam and Eve, the way we were meant to live, and the very concept of bad not existing and nothing but pure love and joy. And that is, and that in of itself, I think, is another most beautiful part of faith, that we were meant to live such perfect lives, and we still can. There's nothing stopping us. Just do your good works on this world, and you will have access to the way you were meant to live, people. And can't wait for the day, huh?
Yeah, it is amazing. Wow, what can I say? Thank you for this beautiful interview.
Thank you for having me, and I thank you for the opportunity. Take care, good people back home.